Hello, listeners. Welcome to Marie Lives the Horror. This is episode 27 of the series of True Paranormal Ghost Stories. In tonight's episode, we dive into a history of a family's home that has been supernaturally marked with terrible horrors. We hear of a unique ghostly encounter out in the wilderness, and an undeniable, shocking paranormal event turns a skeptic into a believer. So without further ado, step into my horror chamber as we live the horror together. Number 1. The house I'm living in since I was 8 was horribly haunted. I apologize if there's any spelling mistakes. English isn't my native language. So I'll start with a little background of the property. This house was built somewhere in the middle of the 1800s. It has belonged to my family since the beginning. My great-great-grandparents built it from scratch when they moved from Italy to Uruguay. The backyard occupied an entire block, so it was pretty big. During the years, the family began to sell some parts, so it is now 1/4 of what it was then. This house served as many things: a cinema, 2 churches, a bar, a clandestine abortion center, and many stores. Sadly, a lot of people had died here, including murderers, natural deaths, and suicides. The previous owners, some family friends, said that the last nights they spent here were almost unbearable. Doors and windows would open and close on their own, so fast they had to get out as fast as they could. The neighbors always told us that they could hear babies crying in the backyard, where they used to bury the aborted fetuses from the abortion center. Cousins of my mother had seen people in the bathroom's mirror plenty of times. Smells would appear out of nowhere. It was a pretty messed up place. We moved in 2010, and almost immediately, things started to happen. Stuff would be missing from the places where we left them. We could hear conversations in a different language in the backyard at night, but after searching, there was no one there. But the thing that creeped the hell out of us were the apparitions. A few months after moving in, my mother woke up in the middle of the night, only to find out there was a man at the end of her bed, with a black plastic bag covering his head. She didn't scream or woke me up. She just closed her eyes and prayed until she fell asleep. Now, this became a regular thing. We could see different people at any time in the house, and they would vanish into thin air. I remember once, when I went to stay at a sleepover at my cousin's house, that was the same as ours, but was divided by a wall. When I woke up at 12 p.m., I saw a woman watching me from behind a full body mirror. I couldn't move, so I closed my eyes. She wasn't there anymore, but had moved to the bedroom door. I closed my eyes again, and she was gone. I have many stories like this. Even once we discovered a picture that no one took in my cousin's house. It appeared to be a baby from another time. You could see by its baby clothes. It was the final proof that there was something going on there. So after contacting a medium, she told us that 6 different presences were living in the house with us. I could tell you like 30 different things that happened here since then. Right now we have gotten used to it and just live with the knowledge that they aren't going anywhere, and it was their home first, so we feel like we are the visitors here. Tell me if you want to hear more stories and I'll gladly tell you. I'll be posting the picture I was talking about in a few minutes. The pic appeared in the camera roll of a cell phone that went missing for hours inside the house. When it was found, it showed this in the main screen. From what appears in the upper right, this was taken in the backyard. Number 2. Haunted Indiana Forest. Okay, so first off, this isn't a personal experience, but something my grandpa experienced years ago. I'm curious to see if anyone has experienced anything similar in the South Michigan, Northern Indiana area. So if so, please comment below. My grandpa was always a big hunter. It's not uncommon here in the Midwest. He would always find new areas to hunt and get permission to hunt on private properties. So one day, him and his buddy got permission to go on this private land that I believe was around 100 acres total. I don't recall the specifics of exactly where the forest was, but if this opens a can of worms, I'll ask for specifics. For now, I know for a fact this was in the Michigan/Indiana border area, or in other words, Michiana. Anyways, they set out around noon to get to the forest and arrive around 1 p.m. and started hiking back in the woods. They each had their own tree stands, blinds set up prior, so they made their way to them. I remember my grandpa telling me they hiked a few miles back, so they had to have been deep in the forest. As the day goes on, they don't see any deer, so once the sun began to set, they decided to start making their way back to their truck and meet up near my grandpa's tree stand/blind. So this is where the weird shit happens. They're making their way back, and the sun has completely set. Luckily, they brought flashlights for the walk back because they had to have walked a few miles in the pitch black. So they finally have about a mile left of hiking when they see something crouched in front of them with their back turned to them. My grandpa and his friends stopped dead in their tracks, staring at this random dude in the woods at night. My grandpa described him as a bald white guy wearing a black and white striped shirt. My grandpa's friend speaks up after a moment that I can only imagine is a "what the fuck is this" feeling, and ask what he's doing out there. And without a word, the man stands up and faces them, staring, and then levitates up towards the trees and just disappears. After that, they sprinted to the truck and never went back to that land again. I know it's not the craziest story and sounds so weird, but I know for a fact that my grandpa did experience this. My grandpa is not a liar, and it was never some scary campfire story he told us as kids. When he told me, I could see in his face that it was disturbing to him. something he can never forget. So I'm on here seeing if anyone knows or has had any similar encounters. This story has always intrigued me, and I'm just curious to see if people might have had any similar experiences. If so, let's talk about it. Number 3. The most vivid and scariest encounter I've ever had. I have lived my whole life, and somewhat still do, being a non-believer. I am a scientist, and realistically will only believe in things that have hard evidence and scientific backing. However, the experience I had, I still cannot explain. A little backstory here. My mom is convinced she has experienced paranormal activity in their house. On one occasion, my mom and dad were together in their room at around midnight. My dad was in the en-suite bathroom brushing his teeth, and my mom was laying in bed. Their bedroom is downstairs, and they have big sliding glass doors to the garden. All of a sudden, my mom heard bang, bang, bang on the door. After initially being shocked, she laughed it off and told my dad to stop screwing around. After explaining he did not make the noise, he took hold of a weapon and walked outside to see if there was anyone there. Nothing. He walked back into the bathroom. Bang, bang, bang. The noise again. This time he heard it. He rushed straight outside. There was nothing there but their cat. He laughed and said it was just the cat knocking the door. But after the first loud knocks, my mom is convinced an animal could not have made that noise. We are big skeptics in our family and never believed her. We all laughed. That laughing stopped when I had my own encounter. Back when I was 18 years old, I am 23 now, I was laying in my bed at my parents' house. My room is pretty small. The double bed takes up the majority of the room. From where I lie down, I can touch the door to the left. Anyway, it was pretty late, around 1 a.m., so it was time to sleep. It takes me a while to sleep most of the time. I was laying there with my eyes open, staring at the ceiling, when I see something in my peripheral vision. It was only faint, lit up only by various electronics in the room. I focus on the figure. It's small, no bigger than a child. It didn't have a shape, so I thought it was maybe just dust or a shadow. Then just in front of it, I notice a much larger, dusty silhouette. This one must have been around 6 feet tall. Both were still, and on the right-hand side of my bed. I was sleeping on the left. They were transparent. There was no detail, but I could start to make out the shape of arms and legs. I was a little scared, but I thought, must just be slight hallucinations from lack of sleep. Then, the very tall silhouette started moving very slowly around the bed, from the right side to the left side, directly in front of me. I was speechless and scared. I couldn't move. If I reached out my hand, I could touch this silhouette if I wanted to, but I didn't dare. Behind the figure, I noticed 3 more, but they didn't have much shape to them. 2 small and one around 5 feet. Looking back, I think it must have been a family, 2 children and 2 parents. But I didn't pay much attention to the others, as my eyes were locked onto this figure standing directly in front of me. It was staring down at me for a good 3 minutes. I could start to make out a head, but no facial features. It looked to have short hair, so I assume, to this day, it was a male. Then, and I am getting goosebumps just typing this, an arm came out from its side. Very slowly, it held out its hand towards me. It was very similar to the scene in Interstellar, where they are traveling through the wormhole and the hand comes into the spacecraft to make contact with them. Just before touching me, I leapt out of bed and turned the light on next to the door. The figures had gone. I might have walked through the silhouette, I don't know. But I can tell you this, I slept with the TV on that night, and for 3 days after too. I am a skeptic when it comes to these things. I have tried to justify it my whole life when I tell the story by saying it was sleep paralysis. But between Reddit and I think something was reaching out to me, and I was too scared to accept it. Number 4. I'm starting to think my apartment is haunted. Hey everyone, I deactivated my old account because I was spending too much time on Reddit and created a new one just to discuss this. I'm starting to believe my apartment is actually haunted. I've always been fascinated by the paranormal, but never believed in ghosts until college, when I had some weird and unexplainable things happen in my sorority house. Still, I was unconvinced, but now, almost 10 years later, I've been experiencing some strange stuff in my apartment, and it's getting harder and harder to explain it all away. For starters, the evidence against a ghost. My apartment building was built in 1991, so not a super old or creepy place. Also, I have 2 cats, and they're totally unbothered, which seems to contradict the popular accounts that animals are more aware of / scared of the paranormal than humans. And for the evidence for a ghost, here are the unexplained incidents that have happened in the almost 2 years that my fiancé and I have lived in our current apartment. Some of the earlier ones were more explainable, but now I'm not so sure. 1. The hanger incident. I have a weird pet peeve about hangers with no clothes on them hanging in my closet. So when I take clothes off the rack, I stash the empty hangers behind my laundry hamper. When I've done laundry and am hanging them back up, I take a hanger from the stash. It's weird, but whatever. One day I was finishing up my laundry and went for the hangers. They were gone. I've had this habit for years, and I've been putting them in this specific location for months, so there was no reason for them to be gone. I jumped to the most logical conclusion. For some reason, my fiancé moved them. But when I asked him, he denied it, and he would have no reason to do that anyway. I searched the entire apartment, high and low, for these hangers. I checked the trash, nada. I decided that either my fiancé was gaslighting the shit out of me for no apparent reason, which is far out of character for him, or else I wouldn't be engaged to him. I had gotten rid of the hangers for some reason and forgotten about it. or someone else had taken them. Side note, this one really upset me because I was experiencing some mental health / depression issues at the time, and it made me question my sense of reality. I knew I hadn't done anything to those hangers. I knew it, and yet they were gone. I was upset about it for days because it was so unexplainable. 2. This isn't very specific, but stuff started appearing and disappearing in our apartment. Like bags of salad both my fiance and I swore we hadn't bought popped up in the fridge, or deodorant I had just bought was nowhere to be found, etc. This one could easily be chalked up to forgetfulness and not the paranormal. And anyway, if it is a ghost, it never brought us any beer. Rude. However, it's about this time that we started joking that we had a squatter and would blame little things on him. Out of soy sauce? The squatter did it. Dirty dishes in the sink? The squatter left them there. And so on. Another side note, we lived on the 3rd floor of a large apartment building, and the only point of access to our unit is our front door, no balcony or anything. Also, every cabinet and closet in the unit is used on a daily basis, especially now that we're home all day due to quarantine. There's 0% chance that we actually have a squatter. We would know. 3. One night, I bent over to pet my cat, and when I did, I felt a hand rest against the small of my back. I screamed and scared the shit out of my fiance, who was in another room, so it wasn't him. Maybe I was just imagining things? I don't know. 4. Last summer, I was in the bathroom when I heard a crow cawing from the other side of the bathroom wall. The other side of the bathroom is the elevator shaft, so it can't have been someone watching TV in the next apartment over. Maybe it was just a bird on the roof and it was echoing down the elevator shaft? I don't know, but this was only a couple of weeks after the hand incident, and my fiance was out of town at the time, so I was not happy about this. 5. A couple of months ago, not long before quarantine started, a loaf of bread fell off the top of our kitchen cabinets when no one else is in the room. The cats can't / don't get up there, but still, stuff can't just fall, right? Right? 6. Here is where things start to get actually spooky. A week or so ago, my fiance and I were hanging out on the living room couch, just chatting. Our 2 remotes, one for the TV, one for the Roku, were on the coffee table in front of us, out of both of our reach. Then, the TV just turned on. Neither of us did it. The cats didn't walk on the remote on accident. We were sitting right there and it just turned on. 7. This happened just the other day. Now that we're quarantined, my fiance has been working in our spare bedroom while I work in the kitchen. I have a direct line of sight to the bathroom door from my seat, but not to the bedroom door. However, the bedroom door squeaks pretty loudly when it's opened. I work with headphones in, so I may or may not hear my fiancé come out of the bedroom when he gets up to use the bathroom, unless I'm paying attention. I can definitely see him. So I'm just minding my own business when I see him walk out of the bathroom. I expect to hear the sound of the bedroom door opening, but I don't. It takes a couple of minutes to sink in. Then I get up and walk into the bedroom to interrupt him and ask if he'd just gone to the bathroom. He said no. I said I had just seen someone walk out of the bathroom, but I didn't hear the door open, so now I was starting to think I'd seen the ghost. He just rolled his eyes. For clarification, when I say I saw my fiancé, I didn't get a good enough look to see if it was actually him. Just that I saw a figure there that appeared to walk out of the bathroom. And since my fiancé is the only other person in the apartment, I logically assumed it was him. My view of the bathroom is a narrow gap between two walls. So after 1 or 2 steps, you're out of my line of sight. So I wouldn't be able to get a good look at anyone taking that path. So I don't know what this figure looked like. Just that it was tall and it was moving. I'm starting to think I believe in ghosts for real. Do I need to do anything? I don't feel scared or think this ghost is harmful. Am I just going crazy in quarantine? Number 5. Something attacked me while I was sleeping. This happened around 5 years ago, but I just found out about Reddit, and so I thought maybe it would be a good place to share this, since the people I know in real life would call me crazy for even thinking these sort of things happened. I had just moved in with my grandma, trying to find some independence, as well as trying to help her be a bit better economically. Her house is actually divided into 3 small buildings, so I had one of these just for me, while she and my grandpa used another one. All the 3 buildings are surrounded by a big sort of chain link fence, so it's secured, but you can actually look into the backyard and such. It was my 3rd night there, and my grandparents were out on vacation. I didn't feel secure or comfortable, but I just brushed it off as the experience of being independent. To calm myself down a bit, I turned on the light of the bathroom and let the door open before turning off the lights in my bedroom, so I would still have plenty of light, but it would not bother my eyes. I managed to sleep for a few minutes before waking up, a bit alarmed. I looked at the window and thought I saw someone standing there, but as soon as I blinked, they were gone. I laid down again and tried sleeping, but I woke up again, and when I looked at the window, I saw someone looking inside. But as soon as I got up to turn on the lights, which were right over my bed, they were gone again. I got a bit scared, so I got out of my room and let the dogs in, since I knew that if someone tried to get inside the house, they would certainly make a lot of noise, as they are trained to do so. I also made sure all the doors were locked and checked all the windows, and no one was there, so I felt a bit relieved and went back to my room. Since I didn't have an actual door in my bedroom, it was a cloth only, I had this little baby door that I used to keep my dogs out of my room, so I put it in place and went back to bed. Checking the windows again and turning off the lights, except for the bathroom one. I fell asleep but suddenly woke up again. This time, I could not move, so I thought it was sleep paralysis. I looked around me and I saw something staring at me from the opening in the bathroom door. I was, to say the least, scared to death. I could not move nor make any sound, so I was just getting more desperate each second. I closed my eyes and repeated to myself that this was sleep paralysis over and over, trying to calm myself down. When I opened my eyes, it was no longer there. I left out the air in my lungs that I was not aware that I was holding and realized that I could move at that moment. So I turned around, which was the worst decision I could make, because as soon as I did, I saw this thing looking directly at me. Or, well, I felt it looking at me, because it had no eyes, only holes. Its face was inches from me, its mouth open, just tons of black and gooey spikes inside it. I tried to turn around, but it grabbed my neck and pulled me. I screamed, and it yelled back. The thing running outside my door and out. I passed out a few seconds later. In the morning, I woke up and thought it was all a bad dream, until I saw the baby door on the floor. I got scared but tried to think logically and said to myself that it probably just was the dogs who made it fall, not the thing that I saw. That it was just a coincidence. I left for work to try and have a normal day. While I was working, a friend of mine came and asked me, pretty worried, what had happened to me. I didn't understand the question, so he pointed at the back of my neck. I had 2 long cuts in the back, going from the middle of my neck to my ear. I was shocked, but I said to myself that again, probably it was just my dogs trying to jump on the bed, and since they scratched me, I had a nightmare about it. No big deal, right? Well, when I arrived at home that night, I had my front neighbor, who I've known since I was 3, so pretty trustworthy, come to me a bit shy and looking a bit worried. When I asked him what was going on, he asked me if everything was all right. Once again, I was shocked, but asked him what he meant, and I quote his answer. It's just, last night, I was having dinner when I heard someone scream pretty loud. I came out and I saw someone running out of your house and into your grandma's place. I thought that maybe something happened to her. I felt the blood draining from my face. They were on vacation, and there was no one else at the house. I told him I was fine and went back to my place. I couldn't sleep with the lights off for over 3 months. A lot happened after that. I lived there over a year, but this is the only one where I got physically hurt. I want to apologize if this is hard to read. I'm on my cell phone and English is not my native language, so I'm sure there are probably lots of errors there. Anyways, do you guys think it was real? Or maybe just a bunch of odd coincidences, and maybe a lying neighbor? Hello, listeners. Thank you for watching tonight's episode of True Paranormal Ghost Stories as you live the horror with me. If you have a story that you would like to be featured in a future episode, check the description down below and send them over to my email. Do not forget to subscribe and click the notification bell to keep up with future episodes. Thanks for listening. I am your host, Marie Lives the Horror.